It seems like we have a quorum, so it's a good time to start. I'm John Dries, the lay leader for today, and I welcome you to the UUFP, Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Pottstown. We've been around for over 66 and some odd years. We live in a sanctuary, which was thankfully built by our founders, with their own hands and their own skills. We were granted 10 acres of land, upon which we use about an acre that's not underwater or marshlands. And we were very thankful for the generosity of the people who founded our facility. We were a liberal faith. We have no creed beyond the fact that we respect the inherent worth and dignity of all people, which is basically the golden rule. Anyone who is here as a first timer, we welcome you. Anyone who's listening online, we welcome you. We don't care about your background. We wish you to come and join us in our spiritual quest for love, truth, and whatever else we can help you seek in a loving community. So as always, are there any announcements for the benefit of the fellowship?
Two announcements, the first of which is a reminder that there will be a board meeting this Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. via Zoom. Anybody is welcome to attend, but the board members would really appreciate it if you attend. And secondly, a reminder that this afternoon after the service, there will be a meeting with the New Earth Traditions people. These are the renters, it's two women who rent two of the rooms back in the RE wing. They are interested in renting the RE room now. Their school is growing. And we wanted to have a conversation with the parents, but again, anybody is welcome to attend to talk about whether or not that would be feasible, whether or not that's in both parties' best interests. So just meant to be a discussion. Everybody can hear everybody's point of view before a decision is made. So please, if you are interested, please plan to join us. Thank you.
Always good news to have rentals. And for all that are here and are listening, we do love to rent out our facility. Like many of those facilities, it doesn't get used during the week. So we have a lovely kitchen, we have sanctuary, we have classrooms and spare space. So any who are interested, you can talk to Linda. So Chloe, I'm told that it's been a while and we don't need to grow rusty. If you could light the chalice for us. And the reading for the chalice lighting is one from the Passover Haggadah. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our power to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. So once again, we welcome our guest leader for the day, Diane Trieb, who I've known for many, many years. She is a spiritualist, has a unique view of spirituality with which she's blessed us in the past. Her sermons are always very intriguing because of her view of her spirituality, which she'll pass on to us. And with that, I welcome her.
Well, I'm going to be talking about imperfectionism, and I'm starting off with not being able to find my glasses, so hang on a minute. Up here. Oh, wait. Oh, here. Yeah, I'm here on the gray. Never mind. It's very nice to be back here. Thank you for inviting me. Opening words are from this wonderful book that I'm taking, my sermon is inspired by, and I'm going to be sharing quotes from it. It is entitled Meditations for Mortals by Oliver Burkman. The imperfect life. This is a book about how the world opens up once you realize you're never going to sort your life out. It's about how marvelously productive you become when you give up the grim-faced quest to make yourself more and more productive. And how much easier it gets to do bold and important things once you accept that you'll never get around to more than a handful of them. Strictly speaking, you don't absolutely need to do any of them. It's about how absorbing, even magical life becomes when you accept how fleeting and unpredictable it is. How much less isolating it feels to stop hiding your flaws and failures from others. And how liberating it can be to understand that your greatest difficulties in life might never be fully resolved. In short, it's about what changes once you grasp that life as a limited human being in an era of infinite tasks and opportunities, facing an unknowable future alongside other humans who stubbornly insist on having their own personalities, isn't a problem you've got to try to solve. The 28 chapters in this book are intended as a guide to a different way of taking action in the world, which I call imperfectionism. A freeing and energizing outlook based on the conviction that your limitations aren't obstacles to a meaningful existence, which you must spend your days struggling to overcome en route to some imaginary point when you'll finally get to be fulfilled. On the contrary, accepting them, stepping more fully into them, is precisely how you build a saner, freer, more accomplished, socially connected, and enchantment-filled life. And never more so than at this volatile and anxiety-inducing moment in history. And now, if you could all rise as you are able and join in singing hymn number 241.
Oh
Now, a story for all ages.
Do you have a story for me?
No, I I thought that was part of it. Okay.
All right, guys, let's go. We'll see you out.
Continuing with our perfectly imperfect service, the offertory, which John will. take.
So as always, this is one of, we call the three T's: time, talent, and treasure, of which we all give each of those what we feel we are able to do. So if you have any spare change, if you feel so inclined as to help us with our finances, we'll come and pass the two baskets, and we thank you. Thank you for your donations and generosity, and it will help sustain us and our mission into the future.
Embracing our finitude. I am reading a most outstanding book entitled Meditations for Mortals by Oliver Burkman. In the first chapter, he encourages us to embrace our human condition for what it is, limited. We have limited time and limited control over that time. And our condition of limitation, which he calls our finitude, is really worse than we think. Our list of things to do isn't merely large, but for all intents and purposes, it is infinite. When we realize that getting through our to-do list is completely impossible, and that doing what we do as perfectly as we would like to do it is also completely impossible, something inside of us unclenches, releases, and relaxes. Anxiety and fear subside when we embrace our limitations. And a new willingness arises, a new willingness to focus on what we actually can do. For example, writing this sermon. It's Wednesday morning. I so want to convey the brilliant ideas Oliver Burkman is presenting in this wonderful book. And I so want to capture your attention and awaken in you the same experience of excitement that I have in reading his words. And this task feels daunting and overwhelming. How can I, a mere mortal, achieve this in the limited time I have, and with the limited control I have over how any one of you might receive these ideas? It's Wednesday, only a few days left till Sunday, limited time. And if I just read the first and even if I just read the first chapter to you, there's no guarantee that you will receive it the way I did. You will receive it in your own way, from your own frame of reference, from your own state of being and mind, which I know very little about. You may like what you hear and walk away from this service forgetting anything I said. Limited control. Come on. So here I am on Wednesday, frozen in the crosshairs of wanting to perfectly achieve an impossible task in a limited amount of time. My mind is filled with so many thoughts and ideas and expectations of perfection that I don't know where to start. So I take Oliver's advice and start with recognizing and embracing my limitations. Embracing the impossibility of my idea of perfection ever coming to fruition. I am a finite human, which means I will never achieve the sort of control and security on which I believe my sanity and my value depends. Confronting your non-negotiable limitations means accepting that life entails tough choices and sacrifices, that regret is always a possibility, as is disappointing others, and that nothing you create in the world will ever measure up to the perfect standards in your head. But these truths are also the very things that liberate you to act and to experience resonance. When you give up the unwinnable struggle to do everything, that's when you can start pouring your finite time and attention into a handful of things that truly count. When you no longer demand perfection from your creative work, your relationships, or anything else, that's when you're free to plunge energetically into them. And when you stop making your sanity or self-worth dependent on first reaching a state of control that humans don't get to experience, you're able to start feeling sane and enjoying life now, which is the only time there ever is. So, perfectionism is part of my problem. A huge part of my problem here. I need to stop believing that I can perfectly achieve what I am wanting. My problem is that I believed perfection was possible. I forgot that I was a finite human with limited time and very little control over anything more than the choices I make. My situation is much worse than I thought. I'm going to repeat that because that's key to understanding being a finite human. My situation, your situation, all of our situations are much worse than we thought. No wonder I am anxious and you are anxious and bracing for the plane crash. I are trying to do the impossible. And here is the saving grace wisdom of Oliver Burkman. I quote, "The plane has already crashed. It crashed the moment you were born. You are already stranded on the desert island with nothing to eat but old airplane food to subsist on, and no option but to make the best of it with your fellow survivors. Perfection was never possible from the very beginning." Well, if perfection is impossible, then what is possible? A wise teacher once said, "The foundation of life is freedom. The purpose of life is joy. Choose joy. I want to be free from my belief that perfection is desirable, good, or even possible. Just thinking this thought brings great relief. You mean it's okay to be imperfect? Yes, absolutely, says Oliver Burkman. In fact, he calls himself a practicing imperfectionist. One of the tenets of imperfectionism is that the day is never coming when all the other stuff will be out of the way or complete, so that you can turn at last to building a life of meaning and accomplishment that hums with vitality. For finite humans, the time for an accomplished and meaningful life has to be now. Peggy Kennett, a British Zen master, says that she teaches her students to find happiness, not by way of lightening their burdens, but by way of allowing themselves to feel the full heaviness of their burdens so that they are forced to put them down. I'm going to read this sentence again because this is one that really got my attention. Peggy Kennett, Zen master, said that she teaches her students to find happiness not by lightening their burdens, but by way of allowing themselves to feel the full heaviness of their burdens so that they are forced to put them down. I love that. I said that again. For example, thinking the thought that life is much worse than we imagined it would be can often be kinder and more effective in helping us see how totally irredeemable our situation is, thereby giving ourselves permission to stop struggling and lay down our burdens. Now we get to relax. Now you find you are able to accomplish more and to enjoy yourself more in the process, because you are no longer busy denying or fearing the reality of your predicament. When a confrontation with our limitations takes place and an acceptance of our limitations takes place, and we decide to lay down our heavy bag of burdens, a precious state of being dawns. You stop seeing the landscape around you as something that needs to be transformed. You begin to see it as the scrapyard of ruins that it is. And then you can look around yourself and say, okay, what is actually here when I'm not telling myself constant lies about what it's going to be one day? With this comes the bracing understanding that you might as well get on with life. That is precisely because you'll never produce perfect work, you might as well get on with doing the best work that you can. And that it's because intimate relationships are too complex ever to be negotiated entirely smoothly, that you might as well commit to one and see what happens. There are no guarantees, except the guarantee that holding back from life is a recipe for anguish. Because our problem, it turns out, was never that we hadn't yet found the right way to achieve control over life or safety from life. Our real problem was imagining that any of that might be possible in the first place for finite humans, who, after all, just find themselves unavoidably in life with all the limitations and feelings of claustrophobia and lack of escape routes that entails. When you grasp the sense in which your situation is worse than you thought, you no longer have to go through life adopting the brace position desperately hoping someone will find a way to prevent the plane from crashing. You understand that the plane has already crashed. It crashed the moment you were born. And as I said before, you're already stranded on the desert island with nothing but old airplane food to eat. And the only option is to make the best with your fellow survivors. When I first read this line, the plane has already crashed, I felt such relief. I felt the unclenching of my belly and my neck and my shoulders. I let out a big sigh of relief. Back to Wednesday morning and being stuck in the clench of, oh my God, what if my plane crashes? What if it happens that I do not get my thoughts perfectly written down? And perfection, what happens if I do not get my thoughts perfectly written down, and that if no one gets it, I so want them to get it, this very helpful message about perfectionism and finitude. The plane has already crashed for me an untold number of times. How many more crashes do I have to relive and re-traumatize myself with? When will I surrender the belief that perfection is possible or desirable? Apparently, the plane has only crashed once. It's over, this crashing. So I might as well see what I can do in the scrapyard of ruins. What does my scrapyard of ruins look like? What does your scrapyard of ruins look like? Well, where should I begin? All the mistakes I have made, all the hearts I have broken or hurt, all the hurts and heartbreak I have experienced, all the things I wish I hadn't said, all the things I wish I had said, all the time I spent feeling less than, not enough, unworthy, guilty, angry, ashamed, afraid. All the missed opportunities to be present and accepting, grateful and happy. My backyard scrapyard is enormous. So many ruins. I am tired of reliving the same plane crash over and over and over again. I am tired of carrying around my bundle of burdens on my back. I'm also tired of carrying around the fear of another plane crash on my shoulders. So I lay my burdens down by the riverside, as the gospel song asks us to do, or down in the backyard of ruins. Just lay it down somewhere right in front of you on the earth and rethink this idea, your idea, my idea of perfection. A universal truth I learned early on was this: you never get it done and you never get it wrong. It is our inner perfectionist who believes that perfection is important and necessary in order to feel good about ourselves. The time has come to call her out. We have allowed her to be our judge, jury, and executioner way too long. There is nothing good or holy or helpful about perfectionism. Belief in perfectionism is a rabbit hole I am no longer willing to go down. Imperfectionism is the new flag I am raising on the rest of my life. And because I have suffered so at the hands of perfectionism, and because imperfectionism feels like amazing grace, I am calling it holy perfectionism. Holy grace of imperfection. Holy because I feel like it has saved me. Holy because I feel like I have been released from a prison of my own making. I have created a new touchstone for myself, a new practice for myself, a new opening of my mind and my heart as to how I will conceptualize life, my life. And it feels glorious. I have put my imperfectionist in charge. She is heart-centered. She is non-judgmental. She is wise. She is the embracer of limitations. She is the light bearer of the unbearable. She trumps perfectionist and perfectionism at every turn. She lovingly understands how the perfectionist came to be. The perfectionist was created from the mistaken idea that she had to be perfect in order to feel worthy of love. I'm going to repeat that because I think it's so true for all of us. The perfectionist was created from the mistaken idea that she had to be perfect in order to feel worthy of love. My imperfectionist understands that I am massively, fiercely, unconditionally loved from the beginning, from birth, without achieving anything other than taking my first breath. My imperfectionist knows that the universe is totally freaking out about how awesome I am. It's got me wrapped up in a warm gorilla hug of adoration. The universe wants to give me everything I desire. It wants me to be happy. It wants me to see what it sees in me. My imperfectionist looks at my backyard My imperfectionist looks at my backyard scrapyard of ruins with compassion and acceptance, with joy and playfulness. Yes, playfulness. She knows I never get it done and I never get it wrong. She sees the scrapyard as the play yard, the backyard playground, if you will. She knows that nothing necessarily needs fixing. She knows there is nothing to be ashamed of. She sees that the scrapyard of ruins is not a scrapyard at all. She sees the ruins not as obstacles, but as opportunities. Opportunities to create her next moment out of the raw materials the ruins provide. The imperfectionist intentionally moves closer to the ruins, facing the obstacles, acknowledging and embracing the limitations, the failures, and the heartbreaks. The imperfectionist creates an energy field of acceptance that allows us to unclench. Shallow breath becomes deep breath. Anxiety and fear subside. Our minds and hearts open to what is beyond the plane crash, to what is beyond the ruins, to what is beyond limitation. A saner, freer, more accomplished, socially connected, enchantment-filled life. And maybe, if you are lucky, you might find a mirror in that backyard, scrapyard of ruins. Pick it up. Look at your reflection. And thank yourself for how far you have come. And now, please join with me in singing hymn number 162. It's 163 on your bulletin, but it's actually 162. do we do the sharing of joys and sorrows now? Okay. From the book. As an imperfectionist, you don't have to pretend this situation is without its poignancy, its seasons of grief, its spells of loneliness, confusion, or despair. But you no longer fight as hard as you once did to persuade yourself this isn't the way things are, or that human existence ought to be otherwise. Instead, you choose to put down that impossible burden and to keep on putting it down when you realize, as you frequently will, that you've inadvertently picked it up again. And so you move forward into life with greater vigor, a more peaceful mind, more openness to others, and on your better days, the exhilaration that comes from savoring reality's bracing air. Imperfectionism. Give it a shot.
We can recite from the order of service or the memory our chalice extinguishing words.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of wisdom, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts, in our hands, till we are together again.
Go in peace, and hopefully we'll see you all next week. Yeah.